But how about a 5% pay cut? That's what a Democratic lawmaker is proposing for all members of Congress. That means both the House and the Senate. Currently, members of Congress earn about $174,000. That's the same salary they had in 2009 and 2010. The last time they got a pay raise was 2009, by the way. Democratic Congresswoman Giffords out of Arizona. She's introducing this legislation. She's with me now, and good morning to you. What kind of a reaction did you get when you said everybody needs to cut their salary by 5%?
With most members who I've had a chance to speak with actually think it's a reasonable proposal. Yesterday, we voted to cut our office budgets by 5%, the committee budgets by 5%, and leadership budgets by 5%. If we're going to lead by example, I think members of Congress should also cut our own salaries by 5%. It's been 77 years since members of Congress have reduced their salary, and with millions of people out of work right now, I think it's the appropriate thing to do.
You remember the year that was? Can you name it?
It was 1933.
1933. And we all remember what this country was going. That was the last time Congress took a pay cut. Now, you know this came up a year ago and it went nowhere. Does it go anywhere now?
I think more people are focused on the debt and deficit. The president had a bipartisan debt commission. I think those recommendations should have been forwarded to the Congress. Again, they were bipartisan. Unfortunately, they lacked the 14 votes out of the 18 needed to forward the proposals on to the Congress. But this debt and deficit that we are accumulating will be our greatest national security threat, frankly, if we don't address it. And I think Americans are starting to pay attention.
Hang on. You think it's our greatest national security threat if we don't address it?
I do. I absolutely do. I was with Dave Walker a couple of days ago, who obviously was former head of the GAO, and when you look at the accumulating debt and deficit and this country being able to sustain our level of prosperity and even our defense budget, we have to get tough right now, tighten our belts, and that means members of Congress need to lead by example.
But you know that some Republicans have been talking like this for years. I think about Judd Gregg from New Hampshire on the Senate side. He's now departed. I mean, he's been banging his fist on the table for years. Are Democrats just coming around to this?
I don't think so. Again, there was a bipartisan effort. I certainly worked on that last year to put the commission in place. It was designed to be almost like a base realignment and closure process, the BRAC process, where in some ways you have to take that process outside of the hands of the members of Congress. Our natural instinct and what we're elected to do is to fight for the interests of our district. But I think having that outside commission that then would make the proposals, which they've done, is really a better approach, a bipartisan, nonpartisan approach.
But what you're arguing is that we should focus, not to borrow a phrase, but like a laser on the debt deficit right now.
Yes.
But
yes,
all Americans
absolutely.
heard for the past 2 years was health care, health care, health care.
No, that's not true. I mean, that's what all the press, I mean, you guys, it was great for theater to look at some of these town halls. I had very passionate town halls in southern Arizona, but the reality is that this Congress, for example, passed a bipartisan $600 million border security funding bill in August. More troops on the border with the National Guard there.
But when you talk,
so there are a lot of bipartisan bills that passed.
But when you make statements, like this is the greatest threat to our nation, I mean, you sound like a Republican now. You sound like a conservative.
Well,
have you changed?
Actually, as a former Republican, I consider myself someone who is pretty in the middle. I'm a blue dog Democrat and one that is interested in making sure that our country maintains our prosperity and, frankly, our superiority over other countries. And that's where we look at these threats. Obviously, our defense budget, our level of education. We are now 22nd in the world with college graduates. You look at the threat on the borders with national security, and you look at what's happening with the debt and the deficit. These are all areas that I've always focused on since I've been in Congress. Democrats and Republicans should work together on these issues.
Well, let's hope. You know, the level of patience in this country is not very high. In fact, it might be on the floor right now. You mentioned the cuts that were passed yesterday. That was a vote of 410 to 13. To slash office budgets there on the Hill by 5%. It'll save you $35 million. We'll see if it's more than just symbolic. Thank you for coming on today, okay? The Democratic Congresswoman out of Arizona, Giffords. We will talk again. Head to our website, foxnews.com/